Hello there, welcome to the video series in corporate finance. The topic we're looking at today is the time value of money. My name is Augustine Intonu and I'll be your facilitator for this video. I currently work as a consultant analyst with a private wealth fund, and I'm also the program manager for the MSc programs in London School of Business and Finance. The time value of money. Let's look at some quotes we have here. Time is the friend of the wonderful company, the enemy of the mediocre, and that's by Warren Buffett. What do I say? Time is money. That's not original to me. You probably heard that from anybody that matters to you, that time is money. But how do we measure this time being money? Let's look at the question we need to answer. If £1 today is worth more than £1 tomorrow, so what is £1 today worth after today? Just one day. What is our £1 worth after today? That's the key question we're trying to answer. And we're going to look at some very important concepts in the time value of money. Before we move to the concepts, let's consider one thing for a fact. The time value of money is the core principle in corporate finance. Actually, it is the core principle in all finance theories. You're trying to find the value of a bond, you apply the principles of time value of money. The value of equity, the same thing. The value of an embedded security, options, put, call, they all have time value embedded in them. What are our outcomes going to be? We have outcomes in terms of understanding and insight. For your understanding, we want to consider the impact of time value of money on financing decision. So this financing decision will bring you 2 million in 10 years' time. Taking into consideration the interaction between interest rates and that 2 million. What will be 2 million worth today in terms of year zero? In terms of the insight, we're looking at being able to answer the financing decisions and assumptions used. Assumptions in terms of returns. What returns are we benchmarking against? In looking at time value of money, 4 very important concepts are there for us to consider. We have the present value. What is the present value? The present value is the discounted value of any series of cash flow from the future to today. So say I have 5 cash flows from year 1 up to year 5. I have to discount them back to year 0 in order to know how much that investment is worth to me. That is the present value. We use the present value to know how much obligations will cost in today's terms. One of the very good examples we use present value for is pension fund liabilities, as we saw in the case studies with the panel debrief. Then we look at the future value. The future value of any investment is based upon the compounding of interest on that investment. So I have £10,000 today, and I deposit that in a bank account earning 5%. How much will that 10,000 become in 5 years' time? That's pretty easy. In the first year, my £10,000 will earn me 5%. I have to add that 5% on the £10,000. So my investment becomes 10,500. In the second year, I compound on that. In the third year, I compound up to the 5th year. At the end of 5 years, I will have compounded, have more in my deposit than I had at the beginning. Then we look at payments. The concept of payment ties up with annuities or perpetuities. An annuity is a series of equal payments up to a fixed point in time, while a perpetuity is a series of payments which goes on forever. We're going to see how this interacts in terms of annuities for a bond and perpetuities for equity. And then most importantly, the interest or the discount rate. The interest or the discount rate is what is used to discount a cash flow from the future to today to get the present value. And it's the same interest that is used to compound that cash flow to a future point in time to get the future value. And that's why we have here annuities, a series of equal cash flow up to a fixed point in time. And then we have perpetuities, which is a series of cash flow that is assumed to go forever, to infinity. They all interact. Rule number 1, we're going to look at some series of rules, actually 3 of them. Rule number 1, when considering the time value of money, but with this subset, we're looking at the present value. $1 today and $1 in 1 year are not equivalent. Having money now is more valuable than having money in the future. Of course, we all know that. If you have money today, you can earn interest on it than if you collect the same amount of money in 1 year's time. Rule number 2, to calculate a cash flow's future value, you must compound it. And to calculate a cash flow's present value, you must discount it. So how do we compound? We have a simple example here. If we want to know how much $1,000 deposited is worth in 2 years' time, if the interest rate is 7%, we wish in this current climate. But facing that and forgetting about reality, in year 0, year 1, and year 2. In year 0, we deposit £1,000 in the account. We earn 7% on it, so we multiply by 1.07. In year 1, it's £1,070. When we compound that into the second year with 1.07, we have 1,145 at the end of year 2. So you now see that £1,000 in year 0 is not the same as £1,000 in year 2. Then we look at present value of a lump sum and the effects of discounting. The example we use here is a bond that will pay out a lump sum. You are considering investing in a savings bond that will pay $25,000 in 4 years' time. If the competitive market interest rate is fixed at 4%, which is more realistic per year, what is the bond worth today? What is the bond worth today is the present value of the bond. Let's see how we work on that. We then go to rule number 3. To calculate the value of a future cash flow at an earlier point, we must discount it. So what do we do here? We have a series of cash flows over a 4-year period. So year 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4. We have 25,000 in 4 years' time. We need to bring that 25,000 to today using the 4% interest rate. So we divide 25,000 by 1.04 raised to power 4. Because the present value of a future cash flow is the cash flow divided by 1 plus r raised to power n. R is the interest rate, N is the number of years. And as such, we have a value of the bond at $21,371. We look at the series of payments and a lump sum. And this is what a bond looks like. A bond will pay you a series of coupon interest and a lump sum at the end. Here we say that you're considering investing in a savings bond that will pay $1,000 in 4 years' time. If the competitive market interest rate is fixed at 5% and the bond paid 5% coupon, what is the bond worth today? We also follow rule number 3, that to calculate the value of a cash flow at an earlier point in time, we discount them. The first example, it was a lump sum. This example, we have a series of cash flow and the lump sum. It's simply the same thing. We discount the series of cash flow. So we have the example again. It's year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and don't forget year 0. So in year 1, we have a series of a cash flow of $50, the coupon. What do? We discount it by 1 plus R. 1 plus R is 1.05. We have year 2, the same thing. Year 3, the same cash flow. And in year 4, we have the interest, the coupon, and the principal value repaid back. When we discount all this back, in year 1, we're going to spend $1,000. We're not going to consider that. But in year 1, in year 0, we spend $1,000. In year 1, we get $50. But the $50 in today's value is actually $47.62. In year 2, we get $50, but in today's value, it's $45.33. While in year 3, we get $50, but in today's value, it is $43.19. And in year 4, we get $1,050, but in today's value, it's $863.84. When we add that up, the price of the bond is actually $1,000. I did play a little bit of a trick there, because if a coupon rate of a bond is equal to the market rate, the price of the bond will be at par. At par is $1,000 for an American bond. Moving on, we have another example. You are considering investing in an equity share of Virgin. Well, Virgin Atlantic, Virgin PLC is the same thing. So we looked at a series of annuities. Now we're looking at a perpetuity. So an annuity is applicable to a bond. A perpetuity is applicable to an equity investment, because equity investments are assumed to go on forever. Equity is assumed to be forever. The dividend paid currently is 50 pence and is expected to grow at 6%, while the cost of equity is 10%. What is the intrinsic price of Virgin today? You will have covered this in cost of capital. But we're using this example. Rule number 4, to calculate the value of a series of payments in perpetuity, we must discount them to present value. The formula we use is simply the cash flow divided by the discount factor. In this case, we have 50p divided by 1.06. Well, 50p multiplied by 1.06, the growth factor, divided by 10%, and that gives us a value of equity of 5.3. Coming back to tie this all together, we say the present value of any cash flow is a series of cash flow which we discount till today, while the future value of any cash flow is a series of cash flow which will compound. Both the present value and the future value use the interest rates for compounding for future value and for discounting for present value. The payments are the cash flows which result to an investor for investing in that security. And we can have payments as an annuity or payment as a perpetuity. If we have payments as an annuity, it is a series of equal payments that will end at a fixed point in time. While if we have payment as a perpetuity, it assumes to go on forever. That ties up our lessons nicely, that we have the time value of money in terms of present value, in terms of future value. We have payments coming in, and interest rates are the key catalyst in determining the value. So again, what is the time value of money? It depends on the investment criteria. It depends on the investor's profile. If I'm earning 10% on any investment I make, the time value of money of 1 year investment for me is 10% of that investment. If you're earning 5% or earning 15%, then that value is whatever percentage you earn in terms of interest rates. So different investors have different time value of money. But the key point is that every investment, for every second, every hour, and every day, earns a return. And that makes money to have value. And that is the key foundation, key concept in finance. Thank you for watching. Have a look at the case study. Have a look at my MBA. We'll have a lot more resource for you to cover there. And there are some very vivid examples that you look at. The key case example used in this lesson is the British Airways Pension Fund, which has a deficit. That deficit arose because of the time value of money, where the investment assets were earning less than the expected returns made by the actuaries. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next lecture.